All right. Those of you at the station, go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Commissioner Kinney, you wanted to make an adjustment to the agenda.
Yes, if I could, I'd like to, I'm not quite sure the best spot, so I was thinking put in a new item number 12, unfinished business bylaws update regarding Mill Creek. Push everything that's currently 12, which is executive session 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, down by one number or renumbered with going up a number and add that to the agenda. So I would make that motion to adopt the agenda with that addition.
Commissioner Chan seconds it. All right.
Second, but I also have I want to, on the consent agenda, 4A, I like to throw the fire chief Thet Hover's vacation request as a separate discussion. I don't know how you want to do it.
You want to make it what, a new business item?
No, well, either we can just discuss it and then we'll pass. We can, I want a discussion, not just consent agenda. So
We
well,
can discuss it as a single item within the
I don't want to be
consent
just blanketly. I want to separate the 4A from the rest of them. Maybe you just pull it out and then you go, then we discuss and we vote for it. And then the remaining B, C, D. Okay, the best way to do it, just pull it out. Okay.
Well, we can just leave it as is and then vote on the other items.
And then we go back, vote on that 4A.
Well, we'll just start off with that first one and the discussion that you want to have with it. So right now, the motion on the floor is to add a discussion around the Mill Creek liaison position and move that as, set that as item 12, and everything after that increase it by 1. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Micah, can we do a sound check with you too? All right, all those opposed by the same? Motion passes. All right, consent agenda, fire chief vacation request.
Yes, I
Is
want
it-
to, I want to say that I approve the vacation. I think maybe as a point of order, because Melissa said you already approved already. We have to all approve the vacation, not just you approve. So because if you approve already, there's no point to be a approval. So I did check. I understand the confidentiality of this date. But there's our discussion. In the past, we basically the chief can list out all the date, then the whole board vote for it. So if there's any objections, so people have a chance to object to it. So I think I approve it, and so I hope the rest of them all approve it.
Is that a motion to approve?
Yes,
Commissioner Chan?
yes.
Is there a second? Commissioner Teoflat? All those in favor?
Is it discussion?
Oh, yep, discussion, okay.
I'm sorry, is this discussion on just the chief's vacation
Item.
request or all of the consent agenda?
No,
Just
just a vacation.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so no, I don't have anything on that.
Well, actually, I do have a little discussion. I'm just curious, who is keeping track of the chief's vacation? Chief, you HR keep track of yours, or how's that work?
Yeah, we have a computer system where everyone in the RFA has to request vacation, including me. And then that translates into an associated system by the same vendor, which tracks that as well, make sure the time is there. And that is really how our paychecks get done, through CFO's Bothwell's division. So it's something that's been in place here from a tracking system and since 2005, and in about 2013 or 14, we migrated to the second half of that
Okay.
system.
But I have to appreciate that the data you pick are not real business day. I really appreciate it. Don't interfere our operation, especially key days that we need to do. You didn't take vacation during the budget time, so that is really good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So the remaining consent, or we didn't pass that, did we? We're still in discussion, right?
Yeah, you should. Yeah, then you gotta.
All right. All
got
those in
to-
favor of passing consent agenda for Chief Hovis's vacation request, say aye. Aye.
Yeah, we did.
Aye.
Already on the,
Aye.
what's the name of your?
Now we can pass the remaining of the consent agenda.
Yes. Melissa, can you mute Leaf's iPhone? I don't seem to have the ability. Thank you. All right, so the remaining consent agenda items, B, Fire Station 11 roof overlay bid award. C, healthcare EFT claims totaling $72,779.85. D, healthcare EFT claims totaling $114,729.38. Claims vouchers 12020 to 12050 totaling $193,110.89. F, claim vouchers 12051 to 12087 totaling $754,774.73. Chair would like to entertain a motion to pass for all those items that were just listed off. Is there a second? Commissioner Chan, you second the motion?
Yes.
All right. Is there a discussion? Commissioner Kenny?
Yes, thank you. And good evening, Chief Hovis. I just wanted to follow up on, thanks for responding to my questions about some of the bills, as I like to call them. But the Bank of America fraudulent activities, both it occurring and then the refund, it's a small dollar amount, but in the context of other things that have happened in the recent past, it seems like, is there more fraudulent activity around us, or am I misreading that?
Commissioner Kenny, you're welcome, and commissioners, it's a good question, and thank you for asking that question. The summary that I gave you just gave some depth to that, and it's my conversations and discussions with CFO Bothwell. That's on a personal basis. That is exactly what happened to me when I was subject to fraudulent activity on my credit card. Small incremental fees they hope you don't notice, which can end up to be a new car, those sort of things. But fortunately, it didn't happen to me. I caught it pretty quick with that. So that's kind of how credit card fraud generally happens. But for more information on that, I'm going to turn it over to CFO Bothwell, and he can see if there's anything else that's nefarious out there. So, Chris.
Good evening, commissioners. So we have seen a lot of fraudulent credit card activity. We have had 6 cards this year that have been canceled as a result of fraudulent activity. It's not really, there's nothing special about this organization with respect to that. It's just a lot of credit card fraud going around. So the credit card numbers get out there, they're in some sort of data breach, and then next thing you know, we have fraudulent activity. So the bank is really good about canceling those really quickly and sending us new cards. They expedite that process. And of course, we don't get charged for any of those fraudulent charges. And so there's no loss to the RFA. But it's something that happens. Chief, it's happened to him. My City of Bothell credit card was compromised like 3 times more often than I actually used the thing. It's kind of the landscape we're living in right now, but there's nothing special about us or our credit card program. If we have an actual loss, we'll definitely report that to you. But in this case, they just reverse the charges and we're made whole. So.
Yeah, and I would just add, when it happened to me, not my South County Fire credit card. So me personally, and I think it's, all of us as members that serve the public, whether elected or appointed, uniformed or not, our information is out there a little bit more than most people. Our website still shows that, our social media accounts. There's a lot out there where they can connect the dots between guessing at somebody's last 4 numbers, what might be available in the dark web, a data breach, when your birthday might be, and even maybe your mother's maiden name when you get promoted a few times when they come visit. It's a little bit crazy out there. So we're doing the best we can. So that's what we've
Well,
got.
Good, Chief. I mean, we've got to be vigilant because
That's right.
This is small dollar, but I didn't realize there had been 6 in the last year, and we've had other things that are larger dollar, shall we say. So just the vigilance of staying on top of that is important. So great. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Chris.
Any other items for discussion? None appearing. Let's go ahead and vote to pass the remaining items on the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by the same? Motion passes. And now we're on to approval of meeting minutes. I'd like to entertain a motion to pass both minutes from June 21st and July 5th. Is there, Commissioner Kenny?
I'll move that.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Lawrence, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by the same? All right, motion carries. And then we run on to the fun part of the agenda. Mr. Mike Todd. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. And you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners. We look forward to having you for the next 4 months.
I think it's
How
4
long-
months plus. I think the trick is it's still redistricted and an election happens in 2023.
Right,
So that's the trick.
yes.
Testing 1, 2.
Oh, we hear you, Micah.
Thank you.
So,
Sorry about that, guys.
no problem. So Mike, how long you been at the city of Mill Creek?
I've been with the city of Mill Creek for a long time. I've lived in Mill Creek as long as it's been a city, for 39 years. I've been working for the city in various capacities since I got on the park board in about year 2000, got appointed to council in 2005 due to a vacancy, much like you're handling this evening. And then was on the council through 2020 when I switched to the light side or the dark side, depending on your viewpoint, and took a staff job. So now I'm the Public Works and Development Services Director for the city of Mill Creek. So a lot of the operations, other than the police, is what happens in my department here at the city of Mill Creek. Some of you saw my name go by and met me as we were working through the annexation process. So I got the task of being the point person for the annexation for the city, with the new city manager to the city, our new deputy city manager, a lot of other new folks. I couldn't hide the fact that I've been around for quite a while. I first met Jim Kenny and David Chan, I think it was about 10 years ago,
Yeah,
with Bob Eastman and a bunch of other folks. When we were
Yes.
first discussing South County cities, Fighters 1, Fighters 7, getting together. At the time, Mill Creek had a really nice deal. And so we just kind of stayed at the table and listened, but that was my first exposure to the fire service, and always thought there was an opportunity for the denser areas like Mill Creek to be joined with other areas like Edmonds, Mont Lake Terrace, Linwood, urban growth boundary area. It makes a lot of sense in terms of efficiency. My background is I'm an electrical and mechanical engineer turned into a business development, marketing, and general manager and planning kind of guy in electronics industry, but I've got a keen eye towards efficiency and operations things. And so it just made a lot of sense for Mill Creek to join you as opposed to being a part of Surfer. Great service from those guys, but it's a less dense area. And so I think the services is why, and the match to the service is why the city of Mill Creek decided to annex and join. So I'm excited to be here. I know there's a lot of discussion about how those roles going to be. My intention is to kind of be a conduit in between, whether we call it a liaison or a board member or whatever. I don't think it should be called a commissioner. The commissioner is reserved for that special elected position, or appointed then elected, as you can do tonight. But I think that we're all board members, I hope, and I'm a non-voting board member, and you commissioners are all board members. We're working together for the best of the agency. You don't have the bylaws done yet, but if the bylaws were done, I'd be ascribing to those bylaws, and I intend to do that when the time comes. And I've been a council member long enough to know that you stand up at some point and say, I'm going to uphold the state laws and the federal laws and obey OPMA and PRA and all those code of ethics things that you guys are used to. So since that isn't in place, I'm just giving you that vocal affirmation tonight that I'm all in whatever fashion works for you as a board of commissioners, and looking forward to being kind of that conduit that helps the city of Mill Creek and the citizens here feel like they got some connection until they get a chance to go to the ballot box in November 2023 and pick one of their own, or just fall in love with one of you folks who are in the what do you call them, the at-large positions. So they are represented, but I think they feel like they would like to have some connection. It goes both ways. I think my duty is to help them understand what's going on and making sure through the redistricting process that everybody stays well connected. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great, thank you. All right, anybody else having, Commissioner Chan?
Yeah, well, welcome to our board. Definitely. My God, was to remember all 10 years ago. You definitely, well, because you're familiar with the RFA, the whole thing, I think you were the really key person to convince the rest of the council member. And then you all lived through all the mayor, Terry and Pempwood and all that, and you're still here. So that's amazing. And really also critical for you is that because now you can be a witnessing and letting Briar and Monte Terrace and Edmonds that say, yeah, Mill Creek make the right decision. And so actually we're using Linwood people too, and they are very happy in general. And so we're actually, we have I say our labor, Cash is here. Zach, and he and I wave a few signs with you guys, and that's wonderful. Again, I'm so happy and welcome you on board, and your advice, your experience and everything can really help us.
All right, excuse me. We'll go on to public comment. Anybody from the public wish to voice anything? If so, let's go ahead and come off mute. All right, not seeing any, so we will move into the fire chief's report. Chief Elvis.
Thank you, Chair Daniels. Good evening, commissioners. Also want to say good evening to City of Mill Creek liaison Mike Todd. Thank you for all the partnership and your representation on the whole pathway for the city to join our RFA. I want to say also good evening to staff that are present tonight and the meeting attendees. Commissioners, I've emailed you a supplemental update for South County Fire related to the pandemic and our First Watch operational summary report. I can certainly answer any related questions at the end of my report, but for Mr. Todd, over the 2-week period, we were about 17% busier and had what we call 9 occurrences of 3 times standard deviation. I can explain a little bit more of that later, but it's been a busy 2-week period related to activities plus heat. So commissioners, I had mentioned to some of you a little bit earlier moving on that it is National Night Out. We have many staff supporting multiple events, including events in the cities of Briar, Edmonds, Linwood, and Mount Lake Terrace, as well as designated county unincorporated areas. And one unique event that we're doing tonight is the National Night Out event at Willis Tucker Park, where South County Fire staff is partnering with staff from Snohomish Regional Fire and Rescue. I bet there's some folks that live in the city of Mill Creek that are probably at that event or at the Linwood event. There'll be an update on that later this month to report back from community outreach and prevention. I want to also mention a little bit for anyone that is from the city of Mill Creek watching, and also for Mr. Todd, that we do a lot of things here, especially how we've pivoted during the pandemic. So commissioners, I know you've been notified that in the month of August, we have Impact Teen Driving on August 18th. We have our child car seat safety and two different dates in August. We continue to do our ACT first aid training. We're well above 10,000 people that have received that training. Child safety and CPR is also going to be in late August, and our team participated in Kid Fire Camp in city of Mount Lake Terrace, and then we have 2 upcoming in Linwood. And that is my fire chief report, except for one important item. And Chris G, could you show the compressor? So commissioners, an update on an improved budget decision package from last year. This picture shows the now in service air compressor and fill station at Linwood Civic Center Fire Station 15. This unit is for filling the RFA's self-contained breathing apparatus, or what we call SCBAs. This unit replaces the original one installed in the 1990s when Fire Station 15 was originally built. And we almost can't figure out how they got it through the door, and it might have been installed by a crane. So great work by the contractor. And again, commissioners, thank you for your support and approval of this unit, as well as we will update the board when the second approved unit is installed at Martha Lake Fire Station 21. And with that, thank you for the opportunity to provide my fire chief report this evening. Staff would welcome any questions from the board.
It's all good. Things are dusty. Weird.
Yeah.
Or one new.
Commissioner Kenny.
Thank you, Chief Hovis. I did have a question for you though, because the supplemental sheet that you emailed out before the meeting from the first watch, it grabbed my attention because in the ones you've sent out for many months, maybe there's one, maybe there's two thresholds reached at 3 times the normal call volume, but there were 9. And so that caught my eye because I have not seen 9 before. So could you elaborate a little bit more about that? Because you also indicated there that the call volume, I think, I'm not sure which week, but it may be the last week, or I'm not sure what day to day it was measured against 22 to 2021, 2022 to 2021, but it was a 17% increase in calls, 2022 versus 2021. So I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about 9 seems high compared to what I've seen from you previously. So can you offer any more comment or thought about that and the why?
I think the why is kind of like a Southwest Airlines commercial, and what they would say, you're free to move around the cabin. People think the pandemic is over, and it has changed and migrated a little bit. There's different variants, so we're still very busy with our EMS calls. We also have very high wall wait times at our receiving facilities. There's truly a nursing crisis going on in not only this region, this state, this nation. And Commissioner Kenny and commissioners, if you have an opportunity to watch the July 27th City of Everett Council meeting and public comment made by one particular nurse that had a tough time keeping it together, but to her credit, talks about being part from the very first patient, January 21st of 2020 till now. That is hard for our agency because it continues to have call volume and those deviations. And when we have this volume and then add heat on top of it, this dry spell we've had, plus an increase of fires that normally happen during the summertime, and put all those things together with motor vehicle collisions, transportation, everything that's happened. This isn't just an anomaly in South County Fire. Of course, our area and the urban growth area is going to have the most densely populated area, so the volume is going to be higher, but there's standard deviations that went on throughout our county as well. So this is a big picture approach, and this is when we tend to get busy, and people are enjoying their summer, and sometimes some bad things happen. And other than that, we're well above 2019 volume levels now. 2020, we slowed down, everybody stayed at home. We got into 2021, we were hoping the pandemic was over. And now we're in 2022. And you think about the census data that was reported and people continuing to come to our area. The tower cranes, aren't just in Linwood anymore. It's just getting busy. So other than that, I think that's a little bit of what I feel is the anecdotal, or really the why and the impression from the folks in the streets, our people that are responding. It's been busy, and to their credit, all of us are working together, the community, the public, our team, but everybody gets a little bit tired. And I would just encourage you, Commissioner, it was a moving piece, and watching the testimony. Unfortunately, Mayor Franklin and another council member were excused from that meeting, but it's moving to hear the stories. It's 2 people, the first gentleman that speaks, but if you can get to the 4th person for public comment, I'm telling people about it because it moved me, and we can't do it without them. They can't do it without us. We can't do it without 911. There's a lot of challenges we're going to see. So, and then that Harold's, covered this a little bit too, as well. So anyway, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Chief, for your report.
Thank you.
Legal report with Rich Davis.
Good evening, Commissioners, and welcome, Mill Creek Liaison Todd. Good to see you. So over the last month, we have worked on some of the Mill Creek transition issues, some real property acquisition issues. We've responded to some public records questions from staff, have reviewed and revised some contracts and dealt with some public bidding issues. We updated the liability waivers that the RFA has been using for bicycle helmets and in some of its programs. And that's pretty much a summary of the work over the last month. I wanted to just mention something and follow up to Mr. Todd's comments about the confidentiality agreement. So the bylaws that are under discussion right now have a section in there that provide for a liaison, or whatever the term we're going to use, board member, to sign a confidentiality agreement. I did speak with the attorney for the city of Mill Creek today, Grant Daginger, ran that by him. I drafted one. It's very short, but basically just has a confidentiality requirement for confidential information that's received in executive session or elsewhere. And Mr. Daginger approved of that. So that is teed up and ready to go when the commission does ultimately approve the bylaw revisions for that non-voting position. And now I'll turn to updates regarding open public meetings. So you'll recall how we got here. We first started during the pandemic with a proclamation from the governor declaring an emergency and requiring that all meetings be held remotely. Subsequent to that, as the pandemic wore on, there was an amendment to allow an in-person component to those meetings. Then this year, on April 29th, Governor Inslee issued a proclamation which rescinded the prior proclamation series as of June 1. And essentially what that did is it made all meetings that are subject to the Open Public Meetings Act, they no longer are required to be held remotely. So the default provision is that meetings will be held at a physical location again. However, at about the same time that the governor was issuing that proclamation, new legislation was being passed by the legislature, which said that all, kind of following along with that, all meetings of a governing body must be held in a physical location where the public can attend. There's an exception to that, though. There are now two types of emergencies. There's kind of the garden variety emergency when we have St. Helens blow up or some other kind of natural disaster. But we also have an emergency where there's a declaration of emergency, such as we had with COVID. The governor declared an emergency. When there's a state, federal, local declaration of emergency, if the agency at issue finds that it cannot meet safely in person, it may continue to hold remote meetings or limit the physical attendance of the public. So what you see now throughout the state is kind of a patchwork. Some agencies have decided to get back together fully in person and to invite the public in. Other local governments have decided that it's not safe to it's not safe to meet in person, and they will continue to meet remotely and not to allow the public to attend in person. In that case, then you do what we have been doing all along, is we provide a remote platform for the commissioners and for the public to attend. As long as everybody can hear each other, it's compliant with the statute. Keep in mind that once by the way, I should say that the statute doesn't say how the agency is to make that determination of whether it's safe to meet in person. There's no guidance there. Presumably it could be by court action, or it could be by a decision of the fire chief or the mayor of a city or any head of the organization. But once we do return to in-person meetings, once it's determined by South County Fire that it's safe to do so, members of the governing body can continue to attend remotely, again, as long as they can be heard by members of the public and the other commissioners. That's pretty much it for the Open Public Meetings Act status as it is right now. The last thing that I wanted to mention, and there has been, this has been circulated, is a resolution that we prepared. There's been some interest in commissioners serving as volunteer firefighters of the authority. The RFA statute refers to the fire district statutes for how that's done. And what needs to happen is that there has to be unanimous consent of the governing board to allow a commissioner to serve as a volunteer firefighter without compensation. So volunteer firefighters can normally be paid a stipend, benefits, a nominal fee, a combination of those, and not be classified as an employee. The Department of Labor back in 2007 kind of clarified what kinds of compensation can be given to a volunteer firefighter. That can't be given to a commissioner who's serving in that role. So in order to allow one of the commissioners to serve as a volunteer firefighter, we do need unanimous consent of the board. If at a later date, the commission were to decide that it no longer wants one or more of its commissioners to serve as volunteer firefighters, it could revoke that resolution just by a simple majority. And so that resolution, I believe, has been circulated to the board. And with that, I'll go ahead and pause and open it up for any questions.
Rich, just to confirm that an abstention consists of a no vote, right?
Well, it would not qualify as a unanimous vote. The statute requires unanimous. So it would require every commissioner to vote in favor of that. An abstention would not count as a yes vote.
Is there any other questions, commissioners? Commissioner Kenny.
Mr. Davis, is there anything back to the public meetings and hybrid meeting issue that you spoke about a moment ago? Is there anything in the current governor's proclamations that prohibits the board from meeting in person?
There's nothing that would prohibit the board from meeting in person as long as the as South County Fire did not determine that it was unsafe to meet in person. So okay. You could.
And is there anything that prohibits a hybrid meeting where you have perhaps some commissioners at the meeting room at South County Fire and some that are coming in by Zoom? And I'm not sure how the public would be, but there or by Zoom, I'm not sure, but a hybrid where you've got both at the same time.
Yes, you could certainly have that. When you go back to in-person meetings, any commissioner who wants to can continue to attend remotely, and the public is also entitled to join in and hear the proceedings either by telephone or video as we're doing now. Yes.
And my recollection from the governor's proclamation is that the only way that this continues to happen, the hybrid, the ability to be fully remote like we are now in this meeting and have been for some time, is via that governor's proclamation. And at such time as the governor rescinds the proclamation, our ability to be fully remote will end as soon as he does that. Is that correct?
That is true unless there was a declaration of emergency by, I don't know if Snohomish, I forget if Snohomish County has a pending declaration of emergency or if that has been revoked. Someone on staff may know the answer to that, but the statute just speaks to a declaration of emergency by federal, state, or local government. So if there is another declaration of emergency that's out there, you could continue to meet remotely as long as you deemed it to be unsafe to meet in person.
And do you have any, looking into your crystal ball, do you have any sense on how long the governor will continue that proclamation? In other words, how much longer can we rely on being able to be fully remote, or is it just anybody's guess?
I don't have any inside information, and it would be purely speculation. I think it's going to be largely dependent on the trends, what happens with the latest variant and case counts and that kind of thing. And so it's really, it's impossible for me to really speculate on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for our attorney? All right. Thank you, Rich, for your presentation. And now we'll go into the new item 12, referencing the Mill Creek liaison position, but I know that wasn't what it was, the motion that was passed. Commissioner Kenny? You're on mute.
Sorry, just a point of order. I believe actually we've got union report and then committee updates before we get to the Mill
Oh, you're
Creek
right.
issue.
I skipped ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Zach, you want to give the union report?
That's okay. You can skip me. That'll be just fine. No, I'm kidding. Good evening to everyone. Special welcome to Mr. Todd. Looking forward, I know our members especially are looking forward to serving the city of Mill Creek. I'm a transplant to the area, so Mill Creek was kind of like our second home. We spent a lot of time in Pine Meadow Park when we first moved up with our friends. So really grew to love the area and look forward to spending some time there. So welcome. And you know, all that time I got to spend with Commissioner Chen waving signs, you know, we got to bond pretty close to. That was good times. Many of you probably have heard that last week the union body ratified the collective bargaining agreement by a large majority vote. So we're excited about that. And obviously there have been a couple of folks who have spoken on that prior to me. I just want to thank everyone involved in the process. It was great to see everything coming together. I know our members are excited. Our families are excited, especially given the tough financial times. So it's we're all happy to be moving forward in that good direction. Finally, my apologies to those commissioners who I haven't been able to meet with personally yet. I have been involved with our Summer Hire Academy, and between that and family and summer and school and everything going on, I haven't been able to reach out to everyone quite yet, but I am looking forward to next week to go back to shift. So I'll have a little more time on my hands, and I hope to be able to meet with everyone in person soon. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's my report. Thanks.
Thank you, Zach. Any questions? Commissioner Chan?
Well, welcome, Cashback. I just want Mr. Todd know that Zach and I were waving at the corner of 196 and Everett Bothell Highway, and there was an accident just right. A bus hit the car right across. He just dropped the sign and just jumped over there to help out. And so he's so anxious to serve your community that turn that way. So Zach, I think, are you ready to go sign waving for Monic Terrace and Briar again?
We'll see how that all shapes up, but I'm ready for anything. So
well, nice to see you.
thanks. Good to see you too.
Vice Chair Rowland?
Yes, you said it was approved by a overwhelming majority. For those that weren't quite on board with it, are there any particular issues that the board should be made aware of as far as sticking points or things like that, so that we can at least know about them and see if they need to be addressed outside or anything like that?
I don't think so. I think that would we could settle that through. I mean, it was such a small minority of folks that we're going to settle it on our side and make sure that things are taken care of, so everyone understands the great points of this and going forward. So,
all right, thank you.
Your question. Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Chief Hovis? No, you're on mute.
Hey, Zach, I know it's important to all of us, and I don't know if all the commissioners know about this, but there was a recent line of duty death in the state for Spokane Valley Fire, one of their firefighter engineers. And I know if you didn't say something about it, that you would regret it. So I'm gonna lower my hand and go on mute here. So with that, you have the floor, if that's okay, commissioners.
No, I apologize. That's obviously, you know, when anyone loses a life, it's a tough thing. So Spokane Valley, obviously, I don't know any of the details, Chief. If you want to
Sorry,
piping.
I'll just mention, commissioners, it's important to know that Spokane Valley firefighter engineer had been worked a 24-hour shift, had a structural fire, went out for a run, and on returning back to the fire station collapsed. CPR was performed, and AED was hospitalized, and 2 days later determined that he would not recover from his injuries due to brain death, was an organ donor. That department is grieving somebody that actually some of us know from the Spokane area, somebody that I'd actually been to a conference with. So I know there's a lot of grieving people on the east side of the state, and commissioners, I know you're very tied in with the Washington Fire Commissioners Association. So with that, Zach, thank you for letting me remind you of that. So, and as part, I should have been part of my fire chief report, Zach. So I'll give you that cover too. So thank you. Thank you.
Any further questions? All right. Thank you, Zach, for your report. Committee updates. Vice Chair Rowland.
Nothing new to update. Still trying to schedule a time with our parliamentarian candidates. Hoping to get that done in the next week or two.
Okay. All right. Now we go on to the new item number 12. Oh, Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, in the past, we have Snow 911 committee report. You have been there for a few months now. We haven't heard anything. Just wondering, anything new or anything that like to share with us?
They're looking to move forward with a building. They've made a bid on it, and that's as much as I can say at this time. They're working on doing their due diligence on the building, the new building. It's there in Everett. And so they're really happy that it's there in Everett, not some other location in the county, because they're always fearful of they move too far away from their current spot, they'll lose more people. And their due diligence will take about 2 or 3 months, would you say, Chief Hovis, as a backup?
Yes, they have a consulting firm they're working with as well.
So are they buying the raw land and then build a building itself, or just buying a building?
They're buying a land with land improvement, so with a commercial building on it.
And I assume they project the same $50 million, kind of the whole total thing. Is that still what the thoughts are?
That's where their thoughts are currently. They're doing the due diligence to understand what it will cost to retrofit the building for their needs.
Are they co-share with anyone, or they're going to be just go alone?
At the moment, they're going it alone.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. The Mill Creek liaison. Commissioner Kinney.
Yes, I'd be happy to chime in. So we do need to, we've discussed a couple of times what the authority will be vis-a-vis our bylaws for Mr. Todd's position. But we haven't reached a resolution of that. So with Mr. Todd being newly with us tonight, it's particularly pertinent that we get the issue resolved. It is a bylaws change and it wasn't noted on the agenda. So I do think anything that we were going to do for final action would need to be the third meeting of the month, appropriately noted for the bylaws change. But we do need to kind of put this, resolve this. I did send out a updated revision. So Rich Davis created, if you'll recall, created the original bylaws amendment in June. I made a revision June 21st or so, and then I've updated my revision and sent that out yesterday. Basically, I take the position that this position should be as inclusive as possible, as much like a South County Fire Commissioner as possible. The one big qualifier is that the RFA plan says it's non-voting. So that means can't have any final vote on motions or resolutions, but it could have the power to make a motion or second a motion. And also it can be compensated. I know Rich Davis indicated that his interpretation of the law was that it couldn't happen vis-a-vis the law, but it could happen via contract. And I thought, well, it doesn't really matter how it happens as long as it happens, in the sense that to be compensated in the same fashion that commissioners are reimbursed for your day of work on behalf of the RFA, or your mileage, or copies, you're at a conference and you travel for a conference, or copies that you make, or expenses that you have on behalf of the RFA, whatever it is, just like a commissioner, treat the position just the same for compensation purposes. And so my vision was, this is as much of a commissioner as possible. I know Mr. Todd said he didn't like the term commissioner. I do, primarily for the reason of the ease of use here in the board meetings, and that is it's just easier to call everybody commissioner. South County Fire and Fire District 1 before it have a long tradition, for better or worse, of formality at these meetings, calling each other commissioner, as opposed to just, hey, Jim, how's it going? That might have advantages, it might have disadvantages. It could change in the future. I'm just describing the way it's been. And in assuming that it stays the same with some of that formality, calling the position Commissioner Todd as opposed to Liaison Todd, I don't know, it just seems easier to me. So that was the gist of what I put together in my proposed revision to the amendment. And but basically I'm trying to get it to be as much as like any other commissioner as we can, minus the final vote on motions or resolutions. I would suggest that in the meantime, because we may not get to a final vote on this till the third meeting of August, that in the meantime, we invite Mr. Todd to be part of our executive sessions tonight and at the next meeting. And, until we get this resolved formally in the bylaws or however else we need to via contract for the reimbursement stuff, that, we treat Mr. Todd in the same fashion that we do the other commissioners, minus, voting, doing final votes, as we kind of as on an interim basis. Like for executive session, we can invite anybody to an executive session that we want. I suggest we invite Mr. Todd to our executive sessions. And I know he's getting organized with the email address, and he probably doesn't need a computer, but if he needed a computer, just like we would for any other commissioner. And part of the reason why I have proposed it in this fashion, it's not just because of Mr. Todd. And, I've known, as he indicated, I've known of Mr. Todd for a number of years since he was on the Mill Creek City Council, but I'm looking forward in time beyond Mr. Todd to other jurisdictions that will join South County Fire. And we're setting a precedent with this position and what we do. And those other cities, although I doubt it's a huge driving force as other cities look to potentially join South County Fire and what will happen on an interim basis, it is something they're going to at least glance at. And knowing that South County Fire Board treats the representative of the city well and tries to be as inclusive as possible, I think would be looked upon favorably. And I think it would be an advantage for us to do that as we look potentially at other cities and having other non-voting representatives on the board sometime, could be actually in the fairly near future. So I just think we're setting a precedent, and I want to set that precedent as broadly as possible. And I understand not everybody feels the same, but we do need to kind of settle this issue, both for Mr. Todd immediately, but also for potentially future representatives, and then what we can tell them about what it means to be on the position and the commitment for it. But I think it's important because this position, kind of as Mr. Todd mentioned, it's also about that position going back to the city and saying, this is what they're doing. This is how they're thinking about us. This is how they're including us. And look, they're essentially bringing me into the fold at the board level. And I think that's the kind of message we want to be sending to cities that join us or are thinking about joining us. It's a real positive thing, I think. And so that inclusivity and trying to give as much opportunity to the position, I think is important. But we do need to kind of settle this one way or another on the details and get a bylaws change made. Thanks.
Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, I think besides all the other thing, I wasn't thinking. I just thinking as personally, when we start merging with Linwood, we do have two of the council members. Now one become the mayor. And I really appreciate the input from them, especially they know the city, the resident much better than me. So the same thing, I hope Mr. Todd will let us know how it is being with the city for so long for Mill Creek. I really like to know, so because so that we can particular thing that we just serve them. I think to me is a benefit to me that getting that knowledge and work with them. So I definitely support whatever Commissioner Kenny is saying and more. Thank you.
Commissioner Lawrence?
Yes, Mr. Todd, welcome to the board. And I wholeheartedly agree with everything that Commissioner Kenny proposed. I think it should go into the bylaws as he wrote. But I think we need to give each liaison, who I will now call Commissioner Todd, the option of, does he want to get paid? Does he want to sit executive meetings? Does he just want to show up? And I mean, does he really want to put the time in to be like a full commissioner, to learn all the things that we learn as we go along? So, or just listen in and give just to be able to report back to the city. So I think we should allow each person to pick a la carte off the menu that Jim's proposed.
Thank you, Commissioner Lawrence. Rich, I got a quick question for you. You've seen a lot of things going on, and what have you seen other fire departments do when it comes to this gray area?
This hasn't arisen with any of the other RFAs that I represent.
Okay.
So we're, as I said in my memo, I took an example from Pierce County, where they had a similar situation, but it involved I think it was an annexation, or no, I'm sorry, it was a consolidation by contract, and that contract provided for a representative to serve on the board. They called, and again, that term, which I have no pride of ownership in, liaison, may not be an appropriate term for South County Fire. Mr. Todd was suggesting board member. It's really up to the board, whatever the board is most comfortable with. But in terms of other examples, Chair Daniels, I wasn't able to find any.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Rowland, looked like you had your hand up.
Yeah, the only thing I saw in there is just in regards to executive sessions, I would suggest that we make sure that confidentiality document is in place before including him in an executive sessions. Depending on the content, there could be good reasons for that or not. But as far as like the ones that we're going to have tonight, I would just want to make sure that we have that confidentiality document in place first.
To that point, from what I understand, we do have one. We have ran into some technical difficulties to get a digital signature. Is that right, Melissa?
Correct, but we do have a confirmation from Mr. Todd that he is understanding and willing to sign the document when it is sent to him. So it has been emailed to him, and he has affirmed the contents.
Thank you.
Ready to sign.
Yes, unfortunately, we ran into technical difficulties, so hopefully we'll get that hammered out tomorrow. All right, so tonight we're discussing it, and I believe we're going to take action at the next regular meeting, which will be the third Tuesday of the month. Is that right, Commissioner Kenny?
Well, that would be my suggestion. I think that's what we probably have to do, because the bylaws change wasn't noted for the agenda for tonight ahead of time. We could do a special meeting next Tuesday, and there's time to then put it on for that. But I guess if it's mission critical, we could, maybe we should, I'm not sure, but I was just thinking in the normal course of business, the third meeting of August would be our next regular meeting, so we could note it pursuant to the bylaws.
Thank you. Mr. Todd, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. With permission of the commissioners, I took a look at the bylaws last night, and so I apologize it was late. sent something to Rich and Melissa and also copied the chair. Just since you've been talking about this, let me throw a couple of ideas in there just for consideration. I'm referencing, I've got to think about this is what's similar to my experience in the Community Transit Board. We were all members of the board of directors of Community Transit, but it was Mayor Erling or Councilmember Todd, and we had a non-voting representative who represented unions. And so instead of calling him the non-voting representative from unions or from labor, we just called him Board Member Norton. And it was familiar and easy to do. So I would suggest if that doesn't change your lingo too much, at least think about that idea. So you'd have two classes of members. You'd have voting members called commissioners. You guys have been elected. You have certain privileges and certain compensation, et cetera. And you have non-voting members who might be different from Montlake Terrace or some other agency you might annex in the future, different from Mill Creek, who's already been annexed. Just throwing that out as a possible construct is they have two classes of members. The thought of compensation, when I was a council member and serving on a community transit board, I got a per diem like you guys do. I think it was $60 for a day in which we had meetings, and got reimbursed for travel expenses as much as you do. Since I'm a full-time employee of the city, that probably doesn't work because I'm probably going to do some of this work for the city on city time. So I think that's probably, in my case, doesn't make sense, but you suggest maybe that's depends on who it is. In the case of Mill Creek, we thought long and hard about this. Is it a council member? Well, their council meetings are from 6 till 8:30 on first, second, and fourth Tuesdays. That was not doable. Same thing for city manager, deputy city manager, a great person to be on this because the staff connection and the fact we're trying to make this transition, that doesn't work either. And so it's gonna be tough for me. I'm gonna go to city council meetings and I'm gonna have to kind of juggle back and forth depending on agendas. Saying to somebody earlier, we don't meet, Mill Creek City Council doesn't meet in August. So these next three meetings, I want to kind of test out what it would be like to kind of multiplex back and forth. But I'm going to give it as much commitment as I can. I'm the kind of person that jumps in and does it to the hilt. But that might be different for somebody else. But I will have to excuse myself up front. I'd like to keep the chair informed and the executive assistant to the board informed that I'm going to come late because I'm making a presentation to city council, or because I've got to be involved in some discussion, or vice versa. So I'm going to bounce back and forth. My intention in either case is to go back and view the recording, whichever part I missed, to make sure I stick with it. Last thing, I think it is important to set kind of a precedent, and as Mr. Kenny said, and I don't know what that relationship might be with the future agency you annex into, or that annexes into South County Fire. But I think doing this right in a way that doesn't make it really difficult to do the next one. This is an experiment. I'm happy to be part of the experiment. So if you have to make a couple shots at it over the next few months, that's fine too. But I think you do want to get it as close as you can up front. So I'm happy to help support that in any way you want to. I think that was the comments I cared to offer. Oh, and then and if I cannot convince you through my comments for somebody to make a motion, somebody second it, then I was just a waste of your time. So the ability to make motions, as much as I respect that, the full inclusiveness that Commissioner Kenny proposed, that may be counter to Robert's rules. I know you have a different set of rules of orders, but that's a little bit weird, and I don't think that's necessarily required. Because if two of you don't want to talk about it, then I can convince two. If I can't convince two of you to want to talk about it, then it's not worth moving forward anyway. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. Vice Chair Rowland.
Mr. Todd, if you have a camera behind me, let me know, because some of those points you brought up were exactly what I had written down on my pad. So I definitely concur with your opinions on these. Parliamentarily, with the Roberts rules, it doesn't really make sense if you can't vote to make motions, and especially as we bring on, our other cities. Once we have 2 or 3 board members, you could end up with them making and seconding motions that the board then has to take on, even if there's not the consensus there to get it done. So that makes sense to pull that out and give flexibility on the compensation. I know that there are some statutes. I want to ask Rich Davis if there is any issues with. I know I've seen different places about if you're a commissioner on multiple boards and doing the same activity, not double dipping and things like that. I just want to make sure. I mean, if you're going to waive it, then it shouldn't really be an issue. But Rich, do you have any info on that?
Yeah, you're right about that. If there is, if an elected official representing two agencies goes to a meeting, they can't charge twice. It has to be one payment, but that's not the case with Mr. Todd. I don't see any issues if he chooses to be compensated and the board adopts a bylaw that says that he can be compensated by entering into a contract. I think that's fine.
Gotcha. And then, yeah, finally, I think that as far as what we're going to call him, I know we went back and forth a lot on that issue, and if he prefers the term board member, I want to respect that. So,
Thank you, Vice Chair Rowland. Commissioner Teofleck.
Regarding the title, I'm thinking of like what things will look like on the Zoom screen, and maybe it will be typed into the minutes. And I do like the name or the title Mill Creek Liaison because it's very clear. So I personally am okay with that title. I don't think I would say Mill Creek Liaison Todd. What do you think of this? I'd say Mr. Todd. It's pretty easy to do that, I think. So I feel like the official title is the city liaison. That makes the most sense. That's my opinion. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Chan? Oh, you're on mute, Commissioner.
Mr. Todd, I really value your experience, everything. I'm hoping you're not just kind of thinking only thing that related to Mill Creek. We do need help. And so I would like to look at you as a global, as the board, no matter what it is related to Mill Creek or not. I would appreciate that input.
Mr. Todd? You're on mute. It gets us all.
There it is. Here we go. Yeah. So another thing I was going to mention about Community Transit Board, I forgot. So I was elected by my fellow medium-sized cities to represent medium-sized cities. So I was Councilmember Todd from the city of Mill Creek. I represented all of the cities, not just my own, and we all 9 of us on the board looked out for the best interest of the agency as a whole. So we did a good job of looking broadly. So I concur 100% that my job here is not to look out for my district or my city, just as you all look out for the betterment of the agency. That's our fiduciary duty. I apologize. I skipped over that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Any further questions, concerns? Vice Chair Rowland?
Just a quick question. So is the intent that Commissioner Kenny will take this, make any modifications as kind of suggested, and then we'll vote on it next week? Or I'm sorry, at the 3rd meeting?
I believe so.
Okay. Sounds good.
Commissioner Kenny, can you confirm one way or the other?
I can do that.
All
Can
right.
I screen it with Rich Davis after I put together a further draft prior to going out to the board?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, sounds good.
Get his blessing as well. All right. Thank you for putting that on the agenda, Commissioner Kenny. And now we will go into executive session. Collective bargaining pursuant to RCW 42.30.140, section 4. And we may take action at the conclusion of the executive session. And Melissa, can you please be sure to invite Mr. Todd? And we will start off with this one for 20 minutes.
The executive session has been extended for 10 minutes.
Chair Daniels, you are unmuted, but we're not hearing you. Not yet. You try turning it on and off again.
Zoom doesn't think you're muted, but maybe your microphone has a switch on it.
We'll let you know when we can hear you. Nothing yet. Try calling in on your phone too, if you want to just do that for now.
Or maybe this is log out of Zoom and log back in.
Yeah. Technology. Tell you what, if this happens at a live meeting without Zoom, then you start to worry. Still nothing.
You want Vice Chair, you want to take it over?
All right.
He said
Yeah.
yes.
All right. While we wait for Chair Daniels to get back, thank everybody's patience there for that executive session. Where we're at right now is we're going to entertain a motion real quick. I think there's one to come to the floor. Is there a commissioner that wanted to make that?
Commissioner Lawrence was going to make that. Yeah, okay.
All right. Commissioner Lawrence or Kenny, I see a hand there. I'm looking for Lawrence, but I don't see him. Oh, there he is. He's just off video.
Commissioner Kenny is always much more articulate on these things. I will defer to Commissioner Kenny.
Okay, Mr. Vice Chair, I'll make a motion that we change the work session next week to a special meeting and have on the agenda the collective bargaining agreement, passage of the collective bargaining agreement, both the executive session and a main meeting item for passage of the collective bargaining agreement with Local 1828.
All right, so moved. Is there a second? Commissioner Teofilek, thank you for that. Is there any discussion on this? Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, just to add that we want to have time to look at the contract. We haven't seen it yet. We just want to have some time to peruse it and check for any errors or omissions.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
All those opposed? I think that was all of us. Great. The motion passes. Chair Daniels, are you able to?
I think so. Can you
there
hear me
we
now?
go. Yes.
Man. All right. That's some
pass
awesome
the gavel
sauce.
back to you.
Thank you very much for taking over. All right. And so with that being said, we are going to go and take a 10-minute break and go into the District 2 second round interviews. So have everybody come back here at 8:50.
All right.
Thank you. All right, recording has begun. All right, it is 8:52 and we are going to commence with the District 2 Fire Commissioner candidates second round interviews. And Melissa, as I understand it, we have all three candidates available tonight.
Correct.
All right. So our first one up is Rashawn Smith.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are.
All right. Yeah, so first off, I want to thank you guys for giving me another opportunity to interview for the current position. And once I found out that I was being considered for a second round of interviews, yeah, thank you.
All right. I have a question for you. I'll begin. What conversations have you had, if any, with anyone at South County Fire before the first interview and since the first interview?
Before the first interview, I had a couple conversations pertaining to what the dynamics were of the RFA of South County, and what are some of the things that that pertain to certain issues. And also with the second time around, I had an opportunity to reach out to some of you to get an idea of what was some of the issues that was of greater interest. And with that, I got a chance to then do some research on my own, and with those discussions, there was definitely a lot of critical issues that I thought was great to have the conversation on, and also think about what are some opportunities that we can do specifically to create ways to build on those issues that will be presenting us in the future.
All right, thank you. And then I know that Commissioner Kenny had a question for you as well.
Yes, Mr. Smith, thanks for coming back tonight for our second round of interviews. Yes, I did have a question for you, and that is, what are 3 issues that you think are important to the RFA in the next year, and tell us how you think they should be handled?
Great. So like I was talking about, yes, I got a chance to talk to a couple of, and there was definitely, again, there was a good amount of things that I thought about, but thinking about the ones that stood out with me the most was safety of the community and responders. I know I kind of talked a lot about that the last time, really specifically on the issues of prevention that can cost prevention of services, thinking about the cost of living in the current area, thinking about the recruitment efforts of our area, and also just kind of thinking about the increases of illnesses that we're currently dealing with, and what that how that affects our first responders, and also how it affects the services that we'll be providing in the area. The second thing that I thought about and kind of did a little bit of research was on that professional development, those opportunities, and specifically surrounding around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and access for that. Some of the solutions that I thought about, well, specifically, let me talk about the specific things first. Talking about the current and future program of an expansion of the costs, the first responders, the training and support for them, and also just overall implicit bias training based on the things that kind of surround our communities as we move forward into the future. And I was thinking about the solutions to some of those. I noticed in a couple of the meetings that I went back and looked at, there was one of the issues pertaining to not having partnerships in the area that could help reduce the spending on training the personnel outside of our area. And I'm not sure if the numbers were correct, but it was like $230,000 to $250,000 per responder, sending them out of the area to get training. So what did I think about me kind of thinking about in the terms of me working locally at a training college? I know that we do have medical service programs that we have there. Maybe even we in the RFA, we can look into collectively building partnerships with the local neighboring technical programs, maybe use that as a pipeline to not only retrain our first responders, but also keep them up to date with whatever that they need, so we don't have to risk sending them out of an area, and that we can kind of keep them close to the area just in case that we need them to deal with certain critical issues that would be happening currently. And then the third was, I was thinking about the sustainability of the RFA, and thinking about the updating or the retrofitting of the equipment. That's one of the things that I kind of talked to one of the commissioners about, and specifically what it takes to update our facilities and also update our equipment to offset those potential future environmental issues, and also those future costs that we will be dealing with within the next 10 to 30 years. Especially, we kind of see it happening now, dealing with inflation and currently trying to stay within budget and reacting to those current growth trends that we're currently, trying to maneuver our way through.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions for him? Commissioner Chan?
I thought, are we going by orders? There's no
Not this
orders?
time.
Oh, okay,
The
so,
only order is myself and Commissioner Kenny, because we supplied questions in advance.
oh, okay. Yeah, actually, Rajan, maybe you can, a question by Commissioner Chair Daniels, and he mentioned that who are the commissioner you talked to before the first meeting? And then also after this, after the first meeting, can you name those commissioners you have talked to?
So before the first meeting, it wasn't most really talking to a commissioner that was a part of the fire service. I actually did talk to a good friend of mine who's actually the position that I'm looking to fill. But the second time that I did call and contact some of the commissioners, I tried to, well, actually on the first one, I did reach out to you and talk to you about the fire service. And we had a little bit of a talk when we were discussing the first, when I put in my application.
Okay.
I did have that conversation with you.
Yeah, that was, I discussed to everybody that's because of meeting, but I thought you were a friend of Gray, and he kind of encouraged you to run for commission, run for this position. And then
no, it wasn't an encouragement for me to run for the position. Now, so one of the things that I don't want to kind of get in the weeds of is that I'm being placed onto this. Number one, I'm running for this position on my own merit. I'm doing this again for within my community. The things that I want to bring to my community, bring to the representation.
No, I wasn't gonna, I'm sorry, interrupt you. I didn't mean to be, I'm just thinking about where you get your information from, because Daniel introduced you to everybody, during the Edmonds parade. And then I think some commissioner had talked to you. I'm just make sure they get enough information. Actually,
so the relationship that I would say that I have with Daniels is that we both ran last 2021 for positions, and I met Derek Daniels on that campaign trail.
Right.
There's really not much that I know other than that. But with Greg, I can say that I've known Greg over almost 13 years. We've been really good friends, and we've always discussed things that, happen within our community and ways that we can better service our communities.
Right. No, what I'm trying to say is that you got really good information, than other people about what we do and all that stuff. Okay.
I would definitely say the information and things that I got is doing research.
Okay.
One of the things that I being an instructor, being a troubleshooter, is my profession, to be able to do that research and to troubleshoot things as I go along, step outside of the box, take a look at all different angles to come up with a common solution. And that's just kind of how I try to approach everything, whether it's community service, whether it's my job, whether it's, again, critical issues, thinking about the future, thinking about what my kids are going to have to deal with in the future. It's just one of those things that's important to me. It's not more so of what information I get from someone, it's what I can do with whatever information that I have at my fingertips,
Yeah, I went back to look at our interview, so I can send. No, you're really good at it. You basically, if I can repeat keyword, is that you're building consensus, and you said you want to be betterment of the community.
Yes.
Take yourself out of the picture. It's not about you. It's about serving the community. And then you said you are willing to go whatever area that need help. So no, it seems to be you're a very good team player. And so are you kind of expecting that either chair assign your committee or other commissioner can say, hey, Rajan, can you help out in this area, that area? Are you willing to accept any assignment you were given?
I'm willing to accept any assignment that I'm going to be given. I'm looking at it to be of service wherever I need to be. It's not about picking and choosing what is the good things or the bad things. I'd rather deal with, I look at the challenges and I face them head on, if that's a good way of looking at it.
Right. No, after the first meeting, you reached out to me, wanted to talk, but I'm sorry, I'm just busy. And then I don't think I'm able to talk to you. So from a first impression, you are basically you do not come up with some kind of what you want to do with the thing. But then I go back to look at.
We only have 2 minutes left of our 15 minutes. And I know that Mr. Todd has a question.
Well, since not everybody do it. So I went back to look at your campaign. Actually, you're a really good campaigner. The campaign basically is saying that, actually the article basically saying that, you and I have a huge difference. I'm the one who said, opposing raising taxes, and you said that I'm sticking with, you are not. Smith said he's not opposing tax increase, and then you also mentioned about the you're a fixer. You want to fix things.
I am. That's definitely what I am. I'm a fixer.
Yeah, you are, right. And then you talk about, actually, let us say that Sean Smith said David Chan has disparaged his constituents. The firefighter unions endorse you. And then also you kind of talk about, I should not use the word re-election. But not only that, you file a PDC complaint against me. Luckily, that was dismissed by the PDC.
Okay.
So actually, it is a very good, because you are against a complaint. But the whole approach on the first one, actually, a really good campaigner, which is completely different from what you say on the last meeting, being a team player. So I want to know who is the real Rajan Mitch. I applaud people that challenge the status quo. Status quo, because it is, you need to challenge the status quo. And when I came on, I challenged that. But I welcome that independent thinking. So can you tell me which one's the real Rajan Smith?
The real one is me. I'm always going to be me. When I was coming into to campaigning, there was definitely some practices that I I thought wasn't that wasn't the greatest of practices, but doing my research at the time, I looked at it. There was things that I felt that wasn't, as best of the practices of how certain things are running. But even with that, I have to remember that at the end of the day, it's nothing personal. I don't want it to be anything personal between me and you. Again, my goal is to build growth and to build consensus within all of the commissioners, including you, David. And one of the things that we spoke about before the first interview, and even trying to get a chance to talk to you during one of the times that we finally got a chance to meet in person, is that I wanted to extend that olive branch between us, so we could build some kind of consensus with each other. Because even if we don't work together, I do believe that there's things that I can learn from everyone on the commission. With that being said, if it's RFA or if it's anything else after that, at the end of all of this, my goal is to be able to do what is right for my community, look at the issues, present the solutions to them, and specifically go with that with no personal hardships or anything that happens with it,
No, you said it right.
Thank you, Rashawn. I appreciate that. We're at time now, Commissioner Chan, so we're done here. Thank you, Rashawn, for your response. Melissa, can you please bring Carol into the room?
Give me just a moment. She just texted me and told me she was having some issues with her phone, so I need to call her.
Okay, we can wait.
So Chair, how much minutes do we have?
15 minutes. That was what.
So if only one commissioner asks question, we still limit to 15 minutes. Is that what it is? 15
minutes to interview each person.
Okay, so I get confused. I thought just, people who ever want to ask. To me is a real clarification what I want. I'm not seeking new information, but okay.
Well, that's why it was requested that you submit your questions in advance, and no email was supplied by you.
Okay, I did not. I sent an email. Basically, I want to listen to. I'm the last one, so I want to get more clarification from what they say from primary.
All right,
Rashawn, thank you, but you're the guy I probably want to hang out and drink beer. Seriously, you're a fun guy to do. Regardless what happened, let's go have a beer.
Definitely. I'll take you up on that.
Okay.
All right.
Chair Daniels, you said that there was a question that was waiting. Since we do have the time, do you want to cover that?
Looks like Carol is dialing in right now.
Okay.
Okay, Rashawn, can you drop off so we can continue with our interviews? Thank you.
See you, Rashawn.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for coming back.
You bet. Thank you.
So we have a couple of formal questions from a couple of us, and then the rest of us will ask questions. We have a total of 15 minutes, so we'll have to conclude this at 9:28. My question for you is, what conversations have you had, if anyone, with anyone at South County Fire before and after the first interview?
I had a conversation. I had a conversation with Jim Kenny after. I had only conversations with Melissa as far as setting up, and I believe those were all actually email, no other phone calls.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner Kenny. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Ms. McMahon, good evening, and thank you for coming back to interview with us on our second round of interviews. The question that I have for you is kind of targeted from last time where we talked more generally. But one of the things that you brought up that we didn't really kind of either have the time or we didn't decide to kind of go into more detail was something that you had brought up, which is I gathered from our discussion last time that you previously opposed the formation of the RFA, and now you want to serve on the RFA board. Tell us why and how your views of the RFA have evolved since its formation.
Why was I opposed, or why did I?
Well, why were you opposed, and then why you want to join the board now? Your views must have evolved in some fashion.
Sure.
And you know, how is this, having been opposed to it previously, but now wanting to serve on the board, how does that, I mean, how are you, how do you see yourself making the fire service and the board better by doing that? And have your, I mean, can you just describe some of that?
What has changed? Okay.
Yeah.
What has changed was the RFA was established and Linwood was included, and my con statement at the time had to do with taxation predominantly. At any rate, what has changed since then is that I'm a believer that you can't just complain, you have to do something to improve. And to be able to do so, you have to participate. And so I feel like there is an opportunity to represent my community in the 2nd district. I have the skills to serve, and so it seemed like a good idea. It is what we have today. I met some of the guys from the 14th today at our night out, and I think that it's something worth doing. I've already mentioned the different things that I think would benefit the district as far as communications and community involvement and education, things like that.
One additional question, and I don't think we asked it last time. If appointed to the position, will you consider running for election to retain the position? Because it'll be on the ballot in 2023, next year.
I would consider it.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have 10 minutes left. Any other commissioners have questions? Mr. Todd. You're on mute.
Thank you. I'm the new liaison from Mill Creek, so I didn't get a chance to interview you last time, but welcome. And I've got kind of an interesting question, maybe. You worked on a lot of teams in your professional career. Probably looks like you spent a lot of years at Boeing. And part of our job here as a board is to have differences, opinions, but also to work together collaboratively to figure out what's best for the agency in this case. If I went to one of those teams, think of one of those teams you were on. If I went to some people on that team, what would they say you do really, really well?
Well, I've actually had some comments like that before. That I listen. They were especially thankful that I remained calm in conversations that were a little bit dicey. Some tempers would flare, but maintaining that calm control and focus on what it is that we wanted to achieve together was what was beneficial for those conversations, I would say.
Good, thanks, good answer. Here's the other one. If you went to one of your confidants in that group and said, geez, Sam or Bill or Jill or Jane, what do you think I could do better? What would they say?
You're going back a little ways. I've been away from it for a bit, but that's a tough one. I'm not thinking probably be their boss, I guess, is what I've heard. They would have wanted me to be the manager.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mhm.
Vice Chair Rowland, you're on mute.
So kind of going into that question earlier about the RFA expansion, if you've watched any of our videos, one of the kind of directions that we're tending towards is talking to the cities that we currently have contracts with, and working on plans to see if they would be annexing in. What are your thoughts on that? The impact of the taxpayers there, if it's something you support or something that you still are looking at it from that tax side? Where's your position on cities like Briar and Mill Creek, or I'm sorry, Mount Lake Terrace and Edmonds?
So a lot of things to cover there. I would just say that I believe that it would be a good thing for them to participate. I think the broader base there is, the lower the tax burden is for each of the individuals involved or individual cities involved. I think there's opportunity to provide better service in that sense. And one of the things I recalled people saying that they were people who were in the unincorporated areas were very happy to vote for it was because they needed the service. And so I think that that we have to keep that in mind as well. So I think the broader base is what will benefit the community overall. And when I say community, I'm talking about all of the different cities involved.
Got it. So if for those of it, individual cities, if the taxpayers there would see their rates go up, but overall it would be a benefit for the RFA, that would be something you would support?
I'd have to look at that, but I think that my belief is that it wouldn't cause their rates to go up as much. It's already, I'd have to look into that a little bit more clearly to make a good statement to that effect, but it would seem to me, my assumption is that the broader base, the more people putting into the pool, the less it costs everyone to do so. They can't not be paying something. They're paying it in one way or another already. So evaluating what that is would be part of what their concern is. But I think in the end, they would realize that they're paying, they would not be paying more.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, well, thank you again. Come back here. And as you know, that in general, we did not pick our commissioner. This is unusual because whoever gets elected is the commissioner are being voted by the voter, not us. Yeah. So I think we kind of consensus to be that consensus is great, but it's not necessary. So maybe I'll ask you that, have you been any in board situation you have come up with really difficult people? How do you handle that? Some people are opinionated, different from you. How do you handle that?
So various things come to mind. One is with a superior, how to handle that would be to try to evaluate the situation and understand where that might be coming from. And I try to focus on the problem more than the individual. I know sometimes people can become very difficult, but it's really focusing on the problem that makes the difference. Understanding what might be causing them to be upset. So that's what helps me moderate my own involvement, if I can just stay focused on what the issue is.
Are you trying to reach out, have a cup of coffee to split the difference, that type of thing?
Sure. If there's something after that can be done, it depends. If it's in a public conversation, then that can be very difficult. But it also can be managed, and then privately reach out would be my preference. Yes, I don't believe that it would help a situation to call anybody out in a public forum without knowing all of the situation. It would be better to talk with the person. And coffee's not too bad before 12.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, we have 4 minutes left. Any other commissioners have questions?
Actually, I do have one more.
Commissioner Lawrence, you have your hand up.
Yes. Last Tuesday, I do believe you mentioned something about you sensed the deficiency in our public outreach. Am I correct? Was that you?
I didn't necessarily say there was a deficiency, but I did say there was an opportunity there. And I think that at times like this, when people feel less safe, the best thing that people who provide safety is to reach out and help reassure them that they're there for them, that they understand what it is that they do or what they can do. Just establishing what you already know, that the fire department is a reliable service to the community, but they don't always know for sure.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering how you came to that conclusion. That we spend a lot of money on public education, and it's like, other than going and beating somebody over the head, it's I don't know how much more we could do. So just wondering how you decided that we aren't doing enough.
Just conversations with various people about what they know and don't know. And as far as communication, it's a problem that a lot of departments have. And I would say, because there are so many ways that people receive information, you can't assume that they know just because it's posted or brought forward. It's going to take extraordinary effort, I think, on the part of many to make sure that that happens.
Okay,
so
I
would say the same thing about a planning commission or a community council, a city council, those kinds of things.
Well, it's in my experience with HOAs and other activities in the political sphere that is 80% of the people really are tuned out. So they don't know because they don't want to know. And so anyway, all right, we really do spend a lot of time and money on public outreach. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you, Commissioner Lawrence. Commissioner Chan, we have 1 minute left.
No, I just want to clarify that last time you mentioned that you represent Linwood, you realize that District 2, both Linwood citizens, Linwood resident, but also unincorporated area. I just want to clarify, you represent all, you're not just Linwood's residents.
District 2, correct.
Okay, I thought you may want. Okay, thank you for clarification.
Thank you for your time. We're at time.
Okay.
We'll move forward with our next candidate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Be well.
See you. Bye.
All right, Melissa, can you bring Mike forward?
He is dialing in, and just so everyone knows, he will not be on camera. He is off-site and is going to be dialing in by phone. So give him just a moment.
Hello.
Oh, Mike, thanks for joining us.
Hey, yeah, sorry, coming to you from St. Joe's emergency room.
That's what I hear. I'm sorry for your situation. Thank you for
So
taking
hopefully
time out to meet with us still.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we have 15 minutes total for this, and so we will have to conclude it here. I see 9:29, so at 9:44. I have one question for you, and then Commissioner Kenny has a couple of questions for you, and then we'll open it up to the remainder of the commissioners. My question to you is, what conversations have you had, if anyone, at South County Fire before and after the first interview?
Before, none. Well, as far as email is concerned, that would be Melissa for coordination, and post-conversation would be with Melissa for coordination. And I believe Micah and Jim reached out just to confirm that I understood that there would be a second round of interviews, and also just expressing interest, hoping I would express interest, let me put it that way, in continuing the process.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Kenny? You're on mute.
Sorry about that, Mr. Fernhoff. I was running off talking and I was on mute here. So Jim Kenny here. Good evening and thanks for joining us again for our second round of interviews.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thanks for having me.
Let's see, got a couple questions for you. The first one is, as a commissioner, you govern the RFA, but the fire chief manages the RFA. How will you stay in your governing lane and avoid being tempted to enter the fire chief's managing lane?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think we've touched upon this a little bit in the previous interview. Clearly, the chief's responsibilities are not that of the commissioner, and the commissioner is there in support of the department and hopefully in support of the chief and the goals of the RFA, whether it be expansion, stabilization, integration with the other departments, and so forth. So, in my view, it's really up to the chief to make the operational daily decisions, and it's up to us to make sure that if we are in agreement, the funding and so forth are provided so the department can realize its goals. So in my view, there's no competition between the chief and the fire commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Second question for you is, Mr. Fernhoff, if you are appointed to this position, will you consider running for election to retain the position in 2023? It will be on the ballot next year.
After careful deliberation, yeah, what I'm looking forward to is a positive experience that would energize me and push me into continuation beyond the 16-month period. So yes, absolutely. I think this would be something that will re-energize me in so many different ways. Enthusiasm about the fire service and certainly the community, and that will most likely come naturally. It's something that originally I did not consider just because of how I originally approached this as filling a gap. But I think that just given the nature of what will happen and you discover new things, it's likely to perpetuate itself on its own, actually. So I'm very confident about that.
Great, thank you.
We have 11 minutes left. Is there any other questions? Commissioner Chan?
Yeah, last time you mentioned actual resume about the Explore firefighter in South California, and then eventually become volunteer. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Okay, is that the Explore program? And
yeah,
then
Explore program. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Then you become a volunteer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm going to date myself here, hence the gray hair. I joined the Arcadia Law Enforcement Explorer Scouts when I was in 1978. The earliest you can get into those programs is 14 years old. So I spent almost 3 years in that program, and then another 3 years in fire department exploring. So this is an opportunity for young people to engage and learn different things about the fire service. That includes going through multiple academies and trainings and these kinds of things. And that naturally led into, before I was graduated high school, becoming a certified emergency medical technician. Went right to work on an ambulance. And then when I moved up here from LA to the Pacific Northwest, joined Key Peninsula Fire Department in 1989, stayed with them for a number of years. I think it's about 7 years. I was an EMTD, which is a defibrillation technician, a wildland fire task force leader, and a number of other things within the department. And when I left, I was what they call a lieutenant, so for one of our stations.
Yeah, the reason is that my son was also explored for the sheriff. He
Oh.
was again 14. So he really enjoyed that, but eventually he just did not that's because we want diversity. I think Chief Hope has worked really hard on that, and I think that's a good opportunity for young people, especially what do you call color, minority people. Did you have friends like that kind of get into the program, get into the fire service?
Oh yes, absolutely. In fact, a good buddy of mine that became career Los Angeles County Sheriff officer and retired as a sergeant. And I think most of us from that program, from the law enforcement program, ended up going into career service somewhere. And to this day, you know, they have taken on also the responsibility of giving back, becoming advisors for those programs. So I believe the Explorer program is almost invaluable. It's a great way to shape youth and craft them for the next level.
Commissioner Rowland, you got 9 minutes.
Yeah, just wanted to expand on something that we talked about when we were considering you, and that's really around the fireworks ban. I wanted to see what your opinions were on the fireworks ban, what's working, what's not, and how you balance that with you know, the tribal interests involved. Can you elaborate at all on that?
Oh yeah, you bet. You know, the tribe that I happen to work with, and I say with because I'm not technically an employee, we're a contract service. They have the opportunity to build and detonate all sorts of devices within the confines of their reservation area. It's a kind of cultural activity that they do. But for me, where I live, it's not something that I necessarily endorse or appreciate because of the destruction, property damage, loss of limb and sight and so forth, as folks do it in an unregulated and unsafe fashion. So my personal view on fireworks is they should be banned. The sale of them should be banned within, you know, jurisdictions that agree. I wish they would do it statewide, but that is just likely not something that's going to happen. So in terms of the tribe, I'm, as the chief of emergency management, looking for consequence management. I don't set the rules for that organization, but for the organizations such as yours, that is something that I'm pretty adamant about. I'm not in favor of fireworks unless they're in a public display kind of environment. But I don't believe there's any conflict of interest or competition of interest between those 2 points.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioners have questions in the remaining 5 minutes? Mr. Todd, you're on mute. You're still muted. You might have enough time to leave and come back, like I did. Commissioner Lawrence, Commissioner Teoflack, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Todd. We'll
Thank
pick you up.
appreciate that. I had a technical problem. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Mr. Farnho, I guess it is. Sorry, I'm botching it.
Yeah, we'll we'll say Fernahoff today, but that's close enough.
There you go. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm Mike Todd. I'm the liaison from Mill Creek, and so I've yet to meet you, but I apologize for butchering your name. My question is this: in your career, you've worked in various kinds of team situations. That's important for us as a board to be able to work together, to explore all kinds of different opinions, but to work together in a team environment. My question is this: think back to a time you were working in a team that was working pretty well together. If I asked people on that team what you did really well, what would they tell us?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think I would look back to I think it was Hurricane Dean in Louisiana. What you end up with is emergency support function representatives, and these are usually come from different disciplines. You could have folks from Army Corps of Engineers, which support temporary housing, and then you have logistics officers and operations officers. Anyway, one of the ice-breaking type of things that I need to do in a rapid fashion when you get a room full of strangers and you only have a very limited amount of time to build consensus is typically to set what the goals are for the group. We're here for this purpose. This is why we're here. This is what we need to accomplish. And from around the room, we need your input. So asking each individual based on what the goal would be to give their input, it may be statutory authority from their particular federal organization, or it could just be their personal input as subject matter experts. But building that consensus starts with listening. It starts with in making sure everybody's informed, and then the process needs to reflect that they've been recognized. So building that consensus rapidly, like I said, is very important, and you only get there if folks feel like they're part of the process. So if you were to ask those folks, how did the meeting go? I think they would walk away with saying, I felt like I contributed, I understood the problem, I was able to recognize what we needed to accomplish within a given period of time, and that we had a measurement of success. How do we measure success at the end of the day? And they could look at the information that we gave them as far as the problem is concerned, limiting factors, and we're bringing those either resources or solutions and ideas to the table. And as a result, we were able to accomplish those goals or tasks within a timely fashion. So I think you would see some kind of response that way.
Thank you. 30 seconds. If I asked them, what could you do better? What do they wish you did better? What would they say?
What could I do better? I think, at least speaking for me, but I think this is a sort of human nature. Listen. We listen. Sometimes we hear, but we don't listen and pay attention. And I think that's something that I'm always constantly working on, making sure that I understand versus just hear. Listen, don't just observe. So that would be one thing that I would say. Always striving to ensure that folks are heard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We have 2 minutes left on our clock. Anybody have any questions for Mike Fernhoff? Is that correct?
Yeah, Fernahoff. Yeah, kind of break it up in 3 sections. Fernahoff, and then you got it. Now, just imagine that T-shirt as the team wraps around all the way to the back.
Right. I appreciate your kindness when we butcher your last name.
That's no problem. You won't be the first or the last.
All right. I'm not seeing any further questions from my cohorts. So thank you, Mike, Mr. Fernhoff, for your time tonight. We are going to break into our executive session here shortly and make a decision when we come out.
Very good. Well, I do appreciate the second round, and for all those that participated, and especially I really appreciated that Explorer question. I think that's really valuable, and everybody on your end, have a great evening, and good luck on your deliberations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care now. Signing off.
All right. We're going to move into executive session to evaluate the qualifications of a candidate for public office pursuant to RCW 42.30.11, subsection 1, subsection H as in Henry. And we will start off with 17 minutes to 10 o'clock, and then we will extend from there as needed. Melissa,
Chair, can I make a quick update? There is a wording correction that I want to make to our executive session. It should be elective office, not public office. And that is a mistake that I made on the title of the executive session.
Duly noted. Thank you.
The executive session has been extended for 10 minutes.
Want to go on mute? There's a super.
The executive session has been extended for 10 minutes.
Going on mute.
The executive session has been extended for 10 minutes.
Look at that. All right, a consensus was reached, and so we will go ahead and take a vote. Commissioner Kenny.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that, well, never mind. I make a motion to appoint Michael Fernahoff to the Open Fire Commissioner District 2 position.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Teofleck. All right, moved and seconded to choose Michael Fernahoff for the open position of District 2. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Rowland, Vice Chair Rowland.
I would just like to say this was not an easy decision, if you can tell by the lateness of the hour. We want to thank all the candidates for coming forward. I'm sure, that taking time out of your day to do this, I know when I went through it, it's stressful. And if you still have a passion for service, running an election, keep your eyes open for appointments and vacancies. Look for ways to help your community, and they'll always be there because we always have a need. So thank everybody.
Yes, thank you. All right, all those in favor of Mike Fernahoff being appointed to the District 2 position, raise your hand, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by the same? Motion passes. Since he is not available, Melissa, do you know if you're going to be able to get a hold of him, or do you want to do the oath at the special meeting in a week?
Correct. I will reach out.
Well, if he's at the hospital,
right,
maybe we don't want to. Maybe just save it for next Tuesday.
Or just email him.
But,
oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking me to check in with him for next Tuesday.
Yeah, let's just do that tomorrow. Check in with him for next Tuesday. We'll put that at the top of the agenda.
All right.
Commissioner comments. All right. Commissioner Kenny.
Yes, I wanted to kind of second Commissioner Rowland's comments about the candidates. I want to thank all the candidates that applied and interviewed for the position. It's not easy to do that, and the board has gone through lots of discussion about it. But appreciate all four of the candidates that applied are all of our constituents. And so it's great to see our constituents stepping forward to offer their services in a leadership position. It's not easy to do that. And I thank them for the time and effort that they put into preparing their materials, very good materials, all of them, and then interviewing with us, because it's not easy. It takes a lot of their time. And it shows that people in South County Fire, they're concerned about their fire service and are stepping up to leadership positions, asking to be part of leadership. And that's great. That's what we need. We need the people of South County Fire at certain times, like this time when there's an appointment process, to step forward and ask to serve. And so I very much appreciate that they did that. I did also want to note that as of August 1st, along with Mr. Todd being the liaison from Mill Creek, we also gained about 21,000 new constituents from the city of Mill Creek. So I want to welcome all of those people from Mill Creek to South County Fire. We look forward to serving you. It's a little bit of an odd transition in the sense that they are now our constituents. They're part of South County Fire as of August 1st, but we don't provide fire service or EMS service to them until the first of the year. So there's this transition period, but we represent the people of Mill Creek. So looking forward to that. And I think that it's broadening the horizons of South County Fire, and it's a new day at South County Fire with the expansion and Mill Creek joining us and the people of Mill Creek. So I just want to welcome them to South County Fire, and I know we'll have a lot more discussion about issues related to Mill Creek, which is all good. But just for tonight, welcome them, and we look forward to serving you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kinney. Commissioner Lawrence.
Yeah, just want to remind the other commissioners that this Thursday, there's another meeting for the Snow Isle Commissioners, right, Jim?
No, it's canceled this month for August. No meeting in August for fire commissioners. Next meeting is first Tuesday of September, and that is, I'm sorry, Thursday. Thursday, September 1st will be the next South County, Snow Isle meeting, 7 p.m. on Zoom.
Yeah, good to see you guys show up. It's just usually just me and Jim, right? Me and Commissioner Kenny. All right.
Was that everything, Commissioner Lawrence?
Oh yeah, the staff shows up too. Usually the chief there and Chief Bob Eastman, Chief Eastman, and another staff shows up. Mike, Chief Fitzgerald. Usually 2 or 3 of the staff. So it's well attended by South County. We need more commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner Lawrence. Vice Chair Rowland.
Just for the formality of it, I know we talked about the resolution concerning volunteer firefighter service for commissioners. You know, as the one who is kind of driving that, I was hoping we could put it on the agenda for our special meeting on next week.
It will be there.
Thank you.
It shall be done.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all right, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting here at 10:49 p.m. Thank everyone for sticking it out.